This is a short piece on Midrash Kedoshim entitled, "Can a dishonest merchant imperil an entire nation?" So Midrash Kedoshim is very interesting. It starts off saying, "Kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem." Somehow you have to be holy, you have to live to a higher standard because I, God, am living to a higher standard. And somehow it means that there's a repercussion to what you're doing. And you will see shortly that the way we live our life, it's not a personal choice of holiness that doesn't affect anybody. It actually is a choice that can affect everybody. Rashi actually gives a very frightening example. It comes off the pasuk, "Lo tasu avel b'mishpat b'mida mashkel u'b'shura." Don't do a miscarriage of justice. Talking to a merchant now. Don't commit a miscarriage of justice when you're weighing your goods, whether by weight or size or liquid weights. So obviously, we right away see that a merchant who's corrupt, who's dishonest, is considered, strangely enough, to be a miscarriage of justice. And what's the repercussions Rashi brings from the Sifra? Very frightening, 5 repercussions. That you mitame aretz, you bring abomination to the land, you chase away the Shechina, you do a chilul Hashem, desecrate the name of God, and you actually cause Jewish soldiers to die in a war. And lastly, you could cause the exile of the entire Jewish people from Israel, all because of that corruption. Now, when the Sifra talked about a miscarriage of justice, this is connected to something in Midrash Tanchuma, in the Parsha Shoftim, which is all about judges, because the Torah makes a connection there, because the two psukim are side by side. It says when you go out to fight, right after it talks about being honest judge, the Torah says these two go together. In other words, the battlefield is somehow the courtroom of the Jewish people when it comes to corruption of judges, and now we find of merchants. It all comes out in the wash on the battlefield. So it's amazing when you think about it, because if someone would hear about a certain battle in which Jewish soldiers fell, you would think must be the enemy was better trained, better weaponry, better generals, bigger army, but nothing is as it appears. Not in your personal life, and certainly not in the fate of the Jewish people, because when God runs the world, whole different rules can apply, and everything can certainly not be the way you expect it to be. So as I said in the outset, living a moral life of holiness isn't a personal choice that only affects you. There are cosmic moral waves going out, and the entire Jewish people are affected, both for the positive and, God forbid, for the negative. Have a great Shabbat.